Oh, yeah. That there is the call of the Wookiees. It is time for Freaky Friday. Yes, indeed. How you doing, Mr. Scott?
I am doing absolutely fantastic, Mr. Baker.
Are you fantasticals tonight?
Yes, I am.
Good, good.
Yes,
I missed you last night. I hope all is well today, and you're looking forward to some good woo.
Yes. Had to do a little bit of some emergency repairs yesterday.
It's got to be done sometimes, man.
Yep. Equipment was failing, and things needed to be repaired. So,
but we're good to go now. Yes, you're good to go now. Everything fine and dandy and well, I take it.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff.
Ready for another week of woo-filled shenanigans.
Oh, it's going to be shenanigans all the way, Scott. Because tonight we are going down under. Yes, we are. We've been threatening it for a couple of weeks. I think it might even have been a month ago. We first came up with the idea of mining for woo in one of the least tapped resources of the world. And of course, I have come to appreciate in recent times just what a gold mine of woo is down under.
Yes. It seems like every time we start getting into some of the Australian woo, it turns out to be some pretty crazy stuff. There's a lot of wild things going on down under, and
usually very crazy stuff.
Yeah. Yes. I think one of the most memorable ones that stick in my mind is the whole Bunyip thing.
Oh, don't you worry, I've got some Bunyip for you tonight. We're bound to have a Bunyip or two along the way. Yeah. We've got ancient aliens. Yeah.
Oh,
cryptids.
Nice.
Really ancient kind of meteor strikes. Some space woo concerning and centering around Australia. Yeah, we got cryptids, we got creepers. I think the only thing we don't have is those bloody time travelers from Apex TV, so I'm a happy guy. Yeah.
I mean, even if you take the woo out of Australia, just the wildlife there alone is...
Just the locals, mate. G'day, mate. The Sheilas and the Bruces out there.
It's almost like Australia was made for woo. Like, it's just... That's just what they are.
Yeah. It would have been even better if that animal had been called a kangaroo. Wouldn't it?
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I'll take two didgeridoos for that one. Yes, indeed. Oh, we should have got the didge ready, man.
Is it a didgeridoo or a didgeridoo?
Depends who's playing it, Scott. So with that said, it is Freaky Friday. And one thing we always ask, can you handle the woo? Because today, the woo is going to be strong. And if you are listening live right now over in the TFR chat room, I'll be over there in just a moment to give you all a shout out. You can head over there, tfrlive.com/chat, and you can join the rest of the loyal Wookiees who hang out in there. So without any further ado, or is it further a woo? I will head on over to the chat. It's gonna be like this today, Scott. It's gonna be one of these ones.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes, it is.
We have got Kev Baker, not to be mistaken with Dave Baker, because they are definitely two different people. We've got Sophia. We've got the Russian Jesus. Oh no, that's right. He's in jail. We've got Bam, Onslow, Cold Brews, Billy Ray, my brother. How you doing, man? We need to get you on one time. If nothing else, Billy, we can talk about wrestling. Because Billy's a wrestling fan as well. Scott's a wrestling fan. I'm a late one to the party. I'm an AEW guy. But hey, isn't the world a wrestling match, Scott? You know?
Yeah, I'm an old school wrestling. I mean I sometimes follow the newer stuff, but you know I was quite into it back during the Attitude Era, and then even farther back, you know, when Macho Man and Hulk Hogan were in their prime. So
Before it went all soy, is that what you're saying? Because there's a fair degree of soy in wrestling nowadays.
yeah, I would say probably around after 2002 it went downhill.
Used to be fake tan and things they put on, but now I'm sure they actually get doused in soy, some of them round the back. But hey, that's for another show altogether. Because we're full woo tonight. We've got V-Lash in there. We also have Freeman, Buzzacino, CJ Rich. Good to see you, buddy. We've got the Waffle Buddy. Daryl, Todd, Paradoxical Anomaly, Delete the Elite. That sounds like Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy, he says that now. Delete, delete, delete. But hey,
Delete.
yeah, see? We've got Poggle and we have Psycho Dave. Now, Dave, stay calm. We don't want you going all psycho on us tonight, man. Not just yet, anyway. Not just yet. So, yeah, Scotty boy, are we ready to embark on our journey to the land down under? Yes.
Let's jump aboard the ship. Let's set sail for Speculation Island, and
where the woo is crazy, the men are crazier, and the Sheilas, oh, don't even get me started on those. So anyway, with that said, let's head into, you know, there's going to be a bunch of people throwing things at their radio right now, but that's okay. We're going to start off calm. We're going to start off slowly, Scott. We have to set the scene. We have to maybe look for why Australia is, and I'm sure after tonight's show you're going to agree, it's a hotspot for a whole heap of things weird, a whole heap of things that are really spiritual, and for me, it still retains some of that connection with the past, with the universe. It's just, I don't know, dude. But we're going to start off looking at maybe why that is, and then we'll build from there. How does that sound? But before we get going, I mean, Australia to you. I mean, when it comes to the woo, you mentioned the bunyip. I mean, what sort of things do you think about as well? I mean, we've got the Aboriginal Dreamtime. We've got all that kind of lore.
Yeah, you know? the whole, you know, the Aboriginal tales and legends, and you know, their connection with nature, and seems like they're operating on a completely different level than everyone else as far as I'm concerned. And so, you know, you have that whole aspect of it. Ayers Rock, that whole thing is completely out of place for that. You know, it's just like, boom, giant rock, you know, in the middle of the...
You know, when I was speaking to Donnie and Luna, there's some stories surrounding that, Scott. If I remember rightly, it's meant to be the back of something. I'd need to go and watch that stream again, but anyone who hasn't caught those 2 live streams, 3 live streams now, I think you really need to, because the guys that came on, Luna, Jess and Donnie, and Ken Rotman as well, wow, just wow, totally blew me away. And it's early in the morning for me, dude. It's weird doing woo in daylight. It really is, but I tell you what, I found myself getting lost in about the Aboriginal outback woo.
There's so much. I think what fascinates me so much about like Australia and all of that is that there's so many similarities between Australia and the desert southwest of the United States, in my opinion. Like the myths and stories that are told by the Aborigines seem to really line up, and there's a lot of parallels between like the Anasazi and a lot of the native tribes of the desert southwest. And then not only that, the outback, it's the same kind of environment. You know, there's like a lot of synchronicities and a lot of parallels between Australia and the desert Southwest, in my opinion. So I think that's what really kind of like piques my interest in it as well, and makes me go,
No, I'm with you, dude. I'm totally with you. I was just messaging there because hopefully as the show goes on, we may be able to get a look at some of the artifacts, some of the crazy stuff that our good friend Donnie brought onto the show. There's a massive axe head that is, well, let's just say, this was for a big boy, Scotty. A big boy. And it shows that they've got a very, very, no surprise, right? They were masters in working stone. And still are, I would imagine.
Yeah, Luna in the chat said that it's very interesting, that, you know, she finds that interesting, you know, about the parallels between Australia and the desert Southwest. And yeah, there's a lot of parallels there. A lot of the petroglyphs and stuff that you find in the desert Southwest are very similar to a lot of the petroglyphs that you find in Australia. And it almost, to me, it just seems like that there was some kind of a connection. Like a long time ago, there could have been some kind of interaction between these civilizations. And I guess it kind of makes sense too. I mean, if you think about it, and if you kind of even research a lot of the stuff that Christopher Everard talks about with the Olmecs, and how it looks like they were traveling from South America to Egypt, and I think Australia may have been one of those connection points.
May have been, definitely. And then you've also got the whole out of Australia kind of hypothesis. And I must admit, when we had Bruce Fenton on the show, he really made a strong case for that. There's a lot of like accepted archaeology and genetics that when you try and explain the out of Africa movement of humans, our origin story, there's a lot of kind of grey areas and anomalous data. And it's just, well, it's an anomaly kind of thing, right? But then if you actually shift the way you look at it, and you look at what was going on in the world at the time, volcanoes going off, etc., changing climates, and you can actually reverse the movement of people and make a case for them coming out of Australia, and then going all the way around, and then to back up what you're even saying even more, Scott, in more modern times, whether it was the Olmecs or whoever it was, you've got Göbekli Tepe, you've got Sumeria, no doubt you've got them in South America as well, you've got Egypt, but they've all got this common kind of hieroglyph of the little baggie that they carry around with them. Makes you wonder, dude. I mean, hey, maybe people separated by geography and time just came up with that randomly. Coincidence, right? Yeah, we don't do coincidence here. Or it hints to some past that we definitely don't get taught in school.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the latter right there, Kev. And you know, then it also gets into a lot of the stuff that Randall Carlson talks about with these cataclysms and the sea level being 400 feet, shallower than it is now, and how the Earth looked a lot different. You know, when you have a 400-foot drop in sea level before, this cataclysm came about, there's a lot of land that's going to be exposed. And I think it was a lot easier for these ancient civilizations to traverse the planet. You know, everybody has this notion that they had to cross vast oceans like the Pacific and the Atlantic, when actually there probably was a lot more land connecting things, and those journeys across water were not as significant as they are now. They didn't have to cross these gigantic bodies of water. I mean, they probably still had to do some kind of navigation, but it wasn't to the extent that you have to do now. And it was much easier for them to do it back then, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to go the other way, what they tell us, Africa outwards, you're talking about people that were heading towards cataclysms, like volcanoes going off and things, as opposed to maybe people migrating away from that. And I got the name of the book wrong. It's Into Africa as opposed to Out of Africa. But hey, that's just a little kind of conversation before we even get going. We're going to throw in some ancient aliens along the way as well. And we're also going to go back in time at 1,800,000 years. But for now, I want to take you even further back in time, because we're going to go back 100 million years.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. So if we do that, or to do that, we can come to a stable of any Freaky Friday, the mysterious universe. And it says, 100 million year old huge impact crater discovered in Australia. So it says gold miners have discovered a gigantic impact crater in Australia that measures more than 2 football fields. Now, it's been estimated that the impact occurred between 250 million and 40 million years ago, although the researchers' best guess is that it hit around 100 million years ago, the same time that the dinosaurs would have been living on Earth. All we can really say for sure is it was a long time ago, right? Because there's a lot of approximate kind of, that's a big window of time, Scott. 40 million to 250. I mean, that's like...
I guess they decided to leave a little bit of wiggle room in there, didn't they?
A lot of the wiggle room. Absolutely. So it says the crater, which is about 3 miles across, was discovered close to the Australian town of Ora Banda, based on the size of the impact zone. Now, the meteorite that hit the spot would have been as big as 200 meters in width, 656 feet. Pity it wasn't 10 feet more. That would have been really good woo. That's longer than 2 football fields. So for comparison, the gigantic asteroid that hit Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, well, at least I got a 66 somewhere, right? 66 million years ago, that killed the dinosaurs, measured approximately 6 miles in width and made a crater about 90 miles across. So we did get our 3 6s in a way, Scott. And
see.
Freaky Friday, we're allowed to kind of massage and take things and just go with it. Yeah. So as a matter of fact, when the dinosaur killing asteroid hit the planet, it had the same amount of force as 100 million megatons of TNT, which is about 2 million times more powerful than the world's strongest made or man-made bomb. And the impact caused earthquakes and volcanic eruptions across the planet, which resulted with mega tsunami that reached heights of thousands of meters. And it just shows you, Scotty boy, it just shows you how in the past this planet has been, well, let's just say it's had periods of time where it hasn't quite been as comfortable as we've known it, shall we say, you know?
Yes, let's just say that life on the planet had a really, really bad day when that happened.
I would imagine yeah.
Yeah. It was a extremely tumultuous time. So, I mean, if you want to, for everyone out there complaining about 2020, just remember, it could be a lot worse. Yeah,
if we could go back in time, I think these people would definitely contest that maybe, if there was people then, remember, there was people with dinosaurs, Scott, right? We've got the footprints to prove it, so who knows?
Hey,
it's Freaky Friday, it's allowed. So it says here, a geophysicist named Jason Mayers was called to the location in Ora Banda after geologists at a gold mining company in Australia called Evolution Mining found some odd rock cores. Now, when he began studying the rocks from the site, he found shatter cones which are present when a huge impact or explosion creates high velocity, high pressure shock waves in that area. Rocks are broken into shatter cone shapes from the large shock waves. And I'm just going to see if there's any. I think there's much more to go from here. You know, it says the impact on Ora Banda may not have been as big as the one that killed the dinosaurs, but it certainly left one massive crater near the Australian town. It makes you wonder what other kind of things it might have deposited as well, Scott. You know?
Who knows? Who knows, man? I mean, yeah, what payload could have been on that asteroid, right?
Now you feel why I started here, dude. Now you see where I was going. Yeah.
I see where you're going with this, Kev. I see where you're going. Yeah, could it have been carrying some microbial payload, or some organic material of some kind? Who knows? All I know is that locally, that was probably a pretty devastating event for any life that, any dinosaurs or whatever life existed around that. I mean, because, yeah, sure, that's not a, global extinction event kind of impact, but on a more regional level, I'm sure that wiped out a lot of stuff. That was probably a pretty catastrophic event. I mean, the crater's 3 miles across? That's nothing to scoff at. I'm sure that explosion and shockwave was quite significant, and it probably caused some kind of a local extinction event, no doubt.
Probably a chunk of that landed in Maydare's rock. Who knows? Who honestly knows?
Who knows? Yeah, maybe a gigantic piece of that thing just landed in the middle of the desert. It's like, hey, here I am.
And it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder because one of the most interesting books that I have read in my entire life, I'm going to say my entire life because it's quite profound. I know it's hard to kind of see it because of my groovy AI NVIDIA thing going on. But human hybrids, Scott, right? Or hybrid humans even. And it's written by Bruce Fenton's wife, Daniela Fenton. And it says the scientific evidence of another big date here, 800,000-year-old alien legacy. Now, this book is fantastical, right? Because it's got the woo, and then towards the back, Daniela lists all of the science and the studies that back up the kind of woo and the claims that she's making. And to boil it down, and we're going to hopefully have Danielle or Bruce on with Mammoth Hunter. She's going to be coming back on to help me with that one. They're going to be discussing another book called Exogenesis. But this one here, there was entities that decided to set out on a scientific mission from the Pleiades, right? And they had identified this planet, and they decided, you know what, we're going to go and we're going to liberate that place, because it wasn't a planet that was just ready for the picking, Scott. They talk about how it was already under the control of a darker, more oppressive force that was out there, not just here, but out there in space, you know. And when they came here, it resulted in a massive, massive battle, right? And they got here high science, and they weren't even all from the Pleiades, if I remember correctly. It was almost like a consortium that got together. And this ship that they came in, I mean, we're used to looking at the Tic Tac, and, you know, we kind of theorize what we might have, what they might look like one day. But this ship was biological and crystal. in nature.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And there's a claim in the book that it got blown out of the sky. These bad guys that were down here, whoever they were, I would like to think they're the reptilians, right? But they blew this thing out of the sky. And in the book, it makes that claim, and Danielle says, well, how can I back that up? I mean, is there any evidence for that? It turns out, bloody well is. Because there's all sorts of crystals and stones that are native to that part of the world, and they can only be produced under high heat when crystals heated to like high temperatures. But it got me thinking as well, you know, what else might have the bad dudes be guarding? Like, why was Earth precious to them? Why Australia? And the other thing was, well, what made this so attractive to outside entities anyway? Whether it's the ones from the Pleiades, the ones called the Anunnaki, or whoever it was, they were coming here for something, right? Wonder if it was in Australia. We'll be back after the break. Don't go anywhere. There we go, Scott. There we go. Yes, first break is upon us, man.
I like where you're going with this, Kev.
Yeah. It's a narrative. It helps us string tonight's show together, you know?
It's a nice rabbit hole to start going down.
Yeah, indeed. And I want to thank everyone for being here. 112 people, Scott. Dang, dude. We don't usually get that many people. Why is your camera gone so big? What is that all about? Oh, no, it's me. It's my fault. I've got your Skype camera on top of Streamlabs, and I thought, like, your camera's gone. Duh. So a big shout out to...
I thought the same thing, actually, a little bit ago, and then I was like, oh, okay.
And everyone at home thinking to themselves, what are they talking about? It's all right. Me and Scott can see the same screen. We know what we're talking about. But I want to thank you all for being here. 112 people. That is phenomenal. Please hit share.
Excellent.
Yep, hit like. Get the word out there. Get more people over here. Because we've barely warmed up, Scott. I've still to send you a whole pile of links. We've got something called Project Garnet that ties in with what we're talking about right now. We've got something called 10 Creepy Unsolved Mysteries from Australia. We've got the 5 best UFO sightings. We've got a Yowie sighting from 2019, and it's a serious one from the Daily Mail. We've got the thylacine, dude. You can't have a Freaky Friday in Australia without the thylacine, right? And Ken Rotman would kill me if I didn't bring it up. And also, I've yet to dig it up yet, but we've also got bunyips. So I think that's a pretty...
You've got quite a smorgasbord, quite a platter, a smattering of Australian...
A didgeridoo-Woosworth.
Yeah. Yes.
See, that sounds like the didgeridoo. A little bit. Not much. There you go. Quite disturbing, that, though, because it also sounds like Rolf Harris. And Rolf Harris was a bloody wrongian. An absolute wrongian. He's one of the... I'm not even going to go there. Not tonight. Not on a Freaky Friday. Oh, no. He worked for the BBC, Scott. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. He was tying more than kangaroos down. Put it that way. Right?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, exactly. So on that note, let's shift gears entirely. Indeedy. So we've got a lot of Australian people in the house tonight. A lot of pressure on when you've got the Aussies in and you're talking about Aussie Woo, Scotty. I'd rather know there was none of them out there. And maybe they could watch it a later date and go, those guys are mad. Absolutely stone mad. See, Scott's not even wanting to get involved. He's like, I'm just sitting back. I'm going to let Kev go for it. He's on one of these ones.
Yeah, I'm along for the ride, buddy. I'm just the wing.
No. This is your time, man. You know, I've been holding it together all week till you get here, Scott. It takes.
Look at that. Mm.
Yeah. Luna's laughing. Kev Baker show. Meet Katie. Okay. Hey, Katie, how you doing? I'm not sure who Katie is yet, but I've met her anyway, so.
Yeah.
Yep. See? like I said to you, Kev, have an Aussie Freaky Friday without an Aussie on board. Oh, listener. Oh, pulled up live on my own bloody show, Scott. What's that all about? Here we go. On that note.
How dare you?
How dare you? Yes, and that how dare you goes down under. You know who it's to. But no, I'm not joking. We're back, part 2 of tonight's Freaky Friday. And we're going down under, Scott, ain't we? We're going to the land down under.
Yeah, before we continue, shout out to Spooky Andy for getting featured on Hoonigan Autofocus.
How cool was that, dude?
That was really cool.
That was a week ago today we found that, because that kept me out of my bed until 5 a.m. I was sitting there, man, my eyeballs looked like, I don't know what they looked like. I'm not even a big car guy. My brother's into that. But, hey, you don't need to be an expert to know when you're looking at genius, do you know what I mean? And the guy who looks at cars for a living, would you agree, Scott, that he was more than 3/4 aroused? I would say there's a good argument to be made.
Now, look, I'm a big motorsports guy. And I never really knew the extent of. I knew Andy. Built drift cars and stuff, but I had no idea he put that much work and engineering into that car. And yeah.
I'm going to drop it into the chat room for, I'll find it and I'll put it over at TFR Live.
Yeah, it's their sister site. It's like Hoonigan Autofocus.
I'll put it over there. I'll do that at some point. But folks, Spooky Andy's been on the show. He sent me the star hole. He actually done it like live at work, recreated some ancient technology, only using like lasers and computers. And we've seen him in the garage before, Scott, right? When we've been talking to him, he was in the workshop. Yeah. I had no bloody idea he was pimping out a ride like that, though.
Oh, man. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing engineering. And that has actually turned out to be one of the highest viewed videos on Hoonigan Autofocus, that feature of his car, which is awesome. I'm glad that Andy got some exposure for his hard work, and he totally deserves it. So,
you know, it's when he's sitting there and he's talking about it, and it's like it dawns on you that it's just a hobby. You know, there's people doing this for a living that probably would die for a car like Andy's, and here he is, just a hobby, and it's like, oh wow, man, you got to take your hats off to genius, and some of the things he's come up with for that car. I'm just glad we've got him as like our robot guy. He's well placed to keep us right, yeah?
The first thing I thought is, you get a lot of these car guys, but they're not engineers. And this is what happens when you have an engineer who's a car guy, and he applies his engineering skills and knowledge to building a custom vehicle like that. And it's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
And the TFR chat, don't worry, I will find it. In fact, I think I have found it, and I'll get that over to you. ASAP. I'm just pulling it up there now. I'll drop that in the chat room at TFR. Yes. So then, Scotty boy, back to Australia, shall we?
Back down under.
Yeah. So I think we left it before the break where I was talking about potentially a very ancient event, 800,000 years approximately, and basically alien wars in the skies over Earth. Big ships shot down. The number 50,000 sticks in my mind. I think that was the total of people that were like coming here to like basically geoform, genetically manipulate, all the kind of stuff that we usually talk about with the Anunnaki in a different part of the world. And it got me wondering as well then, like I say, you've got let's call it the reptilians, right? There's got to be two sides in every battle. It talks about this battle where the ship gets blown up, this big crystalline ship. And if you have got some force here, Scotty, apart from wanting to just possess the place, right, for whatever reason, did make me think, what if there was another motive? And then I thought about the Anunnaki, and I thought about that story. And we all know about the gold mines. Ooh, the gold mines. Look at that big comet we were talking about from 100 years ago. That big meteor that just came... 3 mile wide crater. Does make you wonder what it deposited there. And then all the other things that may have naturally been deposited there anyway. I think there's a lot of gold over there, dude. A lot of gold. Enough, perhaps, to justify making a case for the Anunnaki of the Middle East. That kind of story. Maybe we've got the geography wrong, man. Maybe that geography belongs over in Australia.
Well, I think this story, this whole thing was happening globally. It wasn't just isolated to one area. I think it was happening in Australia the same time it was happening in Sumeria. You know, and look at how mineral rich Australia is, right? I mean, even currently to this day, I mean, mining for minerals is one of the biggest sort of things that is done in Australia. I mean, that's one of their main sort of exports, right? Is mining for rare earth minerals. That's why there's a lot of tension between them and China and stuff like that. So you would think that probably if you had an ancient alien civilization that wanted gold and other other minerals or elements for whatever reason, then Australia would definitely be a ripe sort of place for them to want and to get those resources, as well as like the Middle East and all of these other areas that are mineral rich. And you talk about this war, right? This battle that occurred, where this crystalline ship crashed and all of that stuff. I mean, I'm sure this war wasn't just occurring over Australia. I'm sure this was a global battle that probably many different civilizations or cultures at the time witnessed. And you got to wonder, is this the same battle, this war? Was this the same thing that they were talking about in the Mahabharata? And that you see kind of talked about in other cultures and stories of, what appears to be, where they describe, the gods flying through the sky doing battle and all of this stuff. You got to wonder, is this what was being witnessed globally by the native species, the native people of the planet were witnessing this intergalactic battle that was occurring over the above the planet.
Sounds like Battlestar Galactica or something, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and obviously, I mean, there was hominid species that already lived on this planet before, these others arrived, right? Whatever you want to call them, the Anunnaki or these different sort of alien species showed up. But, there were already, hominid species or, hominid people living on the planet. And probably, they witnessed all this. they witnessed all this craziness going down. And, I think that that's what we're talking about here, with all of these stories and stuff that we see talked about in like the Mahabharata and different native cultures and stuff like that, that there seems to be this huge event that occurred a long time ago that even to this day, you know, the stories are kind of an echo of what was once witnessed at that time.
Big time, dude.
So,
And you mentioned the hominids there, right? And we've got this whole kind of common theme that goes throughout many religions and ancient texts where there was high science and there was a bit of genetic hidgery-pokery or jiggery-pokery going on, right? I don't know what hidgery-pokery is, but I made it up and it'll do. But just the other day as well, I think it was a couple of weeks ago maybe now, but there's another article out about it here. It talks about how Neanderthal genetic study reveals a missing link in human history. Some missing species. Some interaction with a group that we can't seem to trace. Only, what if I was to offer you, there's another theory out there that really hasn't got much attention, but I think it ties in with this rather nicely. And I'm going to read a little bit from this book here, Scott. It's just a couple of chapters. It says that two scientists from Kazakhstan, Maxim A. Makukov of the Fresenkov Astrophysical Institute and Vladimir Sherbak from the Al-Farabi Kazakh National University have recently publicly claimed that our human species is indeed designed by, or was indeed designed by, an ancient alien civilization. These two scientists should have a good idea of how likely such a thing is, having spent 13 years working on the Human Genome Project. So these boys, they know their way about the DNA of humans, Scotty boy.
Are these the guys that found that numerical pattern? I think it is. There's some sort of a number that they came across, and they found that it had some kind of a mathematical pattern that just doesn't randomly show up without...
You stole my thunder. Yeah. You stole my thunder, but I'm going to backfill it for you. You're right. You're right. Because the two of them speculate that those alien progenitors either wanted to use our DNA to preserve a complex message or aimed merely to plant life on other planets. They believe that 97% of non-coding sequences in human DNA is genetic code from alien life forms. This suggestion completely meshes with the information that Charinga provided when explaining that our DNA carries the coding for an unknown number of extraterrestrial species. Now, this is precisely what is meant by the description of a living library on Earth, recording life forms from across the universe. And the Human Genome the Human Genome Project scientists reached the conclusion that humans were designed by a higher power only after stumbling upon a set of arithmetic patterns and ideographic symbolic language encoded inside our DNA. That there certainly seems to back up at least the case for some genetic jiggery-pokery, Scott. Wouldn't you agree?
Jiggery-pokery, I like it.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah, look, I think that there's a lot more to this quote-unquote junk DNA. I think that that's where a lot of stuff is encoded. And I mean, look, DNA is essentially a storage medium, right? Like you can literally encode data into
one of the
DNA.
most effective mediums, from what I've read. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that is pretty much DNA's entire purpose, is to store code.
Just think, Scott, right? We work in binary usually, right? Ones and zeros. We do the quantum ones and zeros, but you think of the ability to store in not even binary, not trinary, but quadrinary. Some kind of code that we don't even play about with, dude. You know?
It's an extremely complex but yet efficient way of packing data, right? You know, with the whole helical shape and just there's so much to the DNA thing that's just like, whoa. But I definitely ascribe to that. I think that there is some kind of knowledge, or there's something that is encoded within the DNA that I think that it's meant to be, where it was encoded in there for a reason, to where I think once we've reached the level of technological advancement to where we can actually deconstruct it and decode it, then that means like we're ready. You know, that I think that it's sort of you're not meant to look at it until you've reached a level to where you've actually gained the ability, or that you
think about it, Scott, right? You think about the AI they've got now, and you think about all the DNA that they've got that's stored, that they could use as a massive training set, and all that bits of junk, or all the bits that we call junk, right? You know, if there's patterns in there, like these cats are saying, and in fact it might even have been AI that pointed it out to them, who knows? But that's exactly where an AI is going to come into its own, right? Because it's definitely, we can look at that junk, we can look at it as, like you say, maybe when we decode it, we're ready. That's quite hard for us to decode. But with an AI, maybe they've got closer than we ever imagined, you know?
Maybe, you know, and
it's
maybe
perfect for an AI. Yeah. Big data, optimized, boom.
I mean, and maybe that's just part of the evolution that we, or you know, like our destiny, I guess you could say. I hate using the word evolution because I know it triggers a lot of people.
That's on them. That's on them. Don't you feel bad about triggering anyone? If I trigger people, I feel great about it.
We evolve. We go through evolutionary steps, right? And I think being able to reach the point to where we can unlock that code is going to be like a marker, right? And when we're able to finally crack that code and figure out what's really encoded within the DNA, maybe that's the point to when they decide they're going to return. They're like, oh, okay, they've leveled up to the point to where we can come back and they're not going to like freak out. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just think it's one of these things to where we're meant to unlock it, but it's only at a certain time.
Maybe now is the time. Maybe now is the time. And being Australia themed tonight, we'll go from this time to dream time. And I mentioned something in that little blurb that I read out. It was the word Charinga. And it's spelled Alcheringa. Charinga. And it says here the definition: in the mythology of some Australian aborigines, mobs, friends of ours, the Golden Age, when the first ancestors were created. And that word there, Charinga, and you're talking about, Scott, you know, when we'll return, or we'll see the return. of whatever that was around at this golden age time. And in some ways in Australia, unlike most parts of the world, what if I was to tell you they've had a constant connection, like a constant communication between those that came here in the past, i.e. the Pleiades and the Pleiadians, and the Aboriginal people of today? Because they do. And it's not Al Charinga, but it sounds like it. And I'm talking about something called the Charinga stones. Now, these things here, I read about them in the book, and then I also had Donnie, our friend from down under, Yama Donnie, my brother, from definitely a previous life. We knew each other, but that's another story. Maybe we could play with these stones and find out. But Donnie told me a tale. Not a tale, because that makes it sound almost hard to believe, but he told me of an event, an instance where he came into contact with these ancient relics, Scott, called the Charinga stones. Now, there's a whole heap of lore about these things, and you know, these things can't just be handled by ordinary people. You would need the clever man from Aboriginal people, or you'd call it the shaman in other cultures. You get me, right? It's got to be somebody, one of the elders, somebody that knows what they're doing, because this thing here, very, very powerful, to the point where Donnie was just in the same room as it, and he had to get out of there. Oh, not good. Nauseous, dizzy, oh, heavy energy coming off these stones. And the story goes that they are entangled with the Pleiades. And it's like an ancient communications device that's still used today.
That's really cool. I mean, it would make sense. I mean, even if you wanted to look at it from a scientific standpoint, I mean, are we talking about some kind of high technology using quantum entanglement, right? So you could have maybe
it's the perfect example of it, isn't it? It's the perfect example of what Einstein called spooky action.
Yeah. So if you had one of these Charinga stones, maybe its sister stone, its twin stone, is somewhere on a planet in the Pleiades, right? And they're quantumly entangled. And so, I mean, who knows? Maybe that was their form of quantum communication something.
Get this right, because Donnie, obviously, you know, one of our brothers down there in a real mob, he knows what he's talking about. What if I was to tell you, Scott? Oh man, hey, forget about it. Forget about the way you guys are talking about it. Think about it as an AI. That's what he's calling it. It's like an AI, dude. Damn. I mean,
well, I mean, yeah.
If it's imbued with knowledge and wisdom, it's right, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, it really would be a form of high technology, right? An AI embedded device, if you will. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, the high technology of the past was it manifested in a different way than our technology now, right? So, you know, when you talk about the battle, like this ship was a crystalline ship that was like an organic crystalline ship and all of that stuff. So, you know, they were operating, their high technology was much different than the way we're going with technology currently right now. But in a weird way, it seems like we're starting to, you know, like come full circle though, because a lot of this stuff with crystal and all of that, it's starting to turn up now in our advancement in technology. So it's almost like we're rediscovering a lot of this stuff in a way. But no, I mean, these Charinga stones, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, to me, it just seems like,
Oh, hang on.
yeah, some kind of a quantum entangled.
Well, here we go. Before we got the break, Donnie updated us. He gave us like a more kind of better description.
Okay.
A Bracewell probe is a hypothetical concept for an autonomous interstellar space probe dispatched for the express purpose of communication with one or more ancient civilizations, proposed by Ronald N. Bracewell in a 1960 paper as an alternative to interstellar radio communication between widely separated civilizations. Holy shamoly. We'll be back on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
Woo!
You know why this is super cool? You know why this is super cool as well? Because last week we opened up by talking about Cliff High and Joe Rogan and how that might signify sci-fi age. And a big part of what sci-fi world will include, according to Cliff High, is what he kind of loosely calls like Galactic Internet. It's more information that's already all around us. I was reading today about an idea that perhaps the magnetic field of the planet is able to store and transfer human thoughts and psyche because the Schumann resonance at times is so close to some of the frequencies in our brain. It's almost like the two waves almost sync up, take the information out like a carrier wave. And that got me thinking as well, because that's like, hang on a minute, we're getting close to what Cliff High's talking about here, where there's this absolutely vast database of knowledge that it's held all around us. We just don't recognize it, but we're going to start to, and then we're going to have to decode it when we access it. Damn, dude.
Like I said, it seems like we're coming around full circle, and it's almost like
1 minute. I need to nip to the toilet 1 minute. Do you want me to put music on, or do you want to just talk to your people?
Well, I gotta go grab something to drink too.
Okay,
so.
we'll be back in 1 minute, folks. I'm sorry, toilet gets in the way. I know. we're only human here on Freaky Friday. I know some people don't believe that, but yep, we are. So I'll shove on some tunes, Scott. There we go. Hold on.
All right, everybody. We are back, I think. I think we have the host connected, so. All right, we are back, everyone. All right, there we go. We are back. And welcome back, everybody. Freaky Friday here. And Australia, Charinga stones, ancient technology, quantum communication, quantum entanglement with the Pleiades. Woo!
Talk about woo, dude. I know. We've hardly even got to the links that we dug up with, like, the top 10 this, the top 5 that. You know, hey?
Yeah. So, like I was saying before the break, it seems like we're coming around full circle. We're starting to rediscover a lot of this stuff that our ancient ancestors just kind of already had a natural connection with.
Well, I think just when we went to the break, Scott, we had a new bit of information from Donnie. That probably a good place to start again, because this is really interesting. Yeah, we're talking about these communication stones. We've talked about maybe ancient kind of battles that were going on as well at some point. My camera's glitching out for some reason. I don't know what's causing that. Never mind, I'll fix it. I think it's fixed now. And before we went to the break, Donnie down under, much love to you, brother. Thank you so much for keeping me and Scotty right here. He talked about something called a Bracewell probe. And he says it's a hypothetical concept for an autonomous interstellar space probe dispatched for the express purpose of communication with one or more alien civilizations. Now, it was proposed by Ronald N. Bracewell in a 1960 paper as an alternative to interstellar radio communication between widely separated civilizations. Back in the 60s, if he was thinking about it, he wouldn't have been the only one, right? And it does make you wonder. I've seen somebody talking in the chat room, Scott, as well, about sacred stones. Other instances where we've got these stones that seem to have this connection, that this almost magical power. Magic, because it's technology that we don't recognize, as Arthur C. Clarke says, right?
Exactly. And also makes you wonder about, well, going back to the asteroid strikes and stuff like that. Like you said, what kind of payload were these asteroids carrying? And if you were to come across a piece of crystal or stone from one of these asteroids, what is really contained within that stone? What is embedded within that crystal?
Hypothetically, I mean, we're no experts here. I don't know who would be an expert in ancient stone communication, quantum communication devices, right? But ancient world, we often talk about, like, they were well knowledgeable in crafting stone. We look at the way that the architecture and the buildings and the pyramids that have lasted to this day, right? But what if there's this other component, and say you've got one big quarry, for example, Scotty, right? One quarry, one piece of stone, no matter how big it is, bit of rock, all that crystalline all throughout it. I mean, Is that how you get this natural formation of almost entanglement? You know, because we can entangle particles in a lab by like using radio frequency, lasers, smoke, mirrors, a bit of secret sauce on top, and you get me? But how does like a stone in ancient times, is it naturally entangled with other stone out there? And if that's the case, then, I mean, is it? I mean, is that how it works? How does this even logically come together? How can we scientifically say feasible?
I don't know. I don't think we've reached that
And
level
on
yet.
Freaky Friday, it doesn't matter. We don't need feasible.
So we don't need feasible. That's been thrown out the window a long time ago. So how does this probe work? How does this theoretical
It says,
probe?
my friend, a Bracewell probe would be constructed as an autonomous robotic interstellar space probe with a high level of AI and all relevant information that its home civilization might wish to communicate to another culture.
Isn't it interesting how in 1960 there was already this theoretical proposition of loading a probe with AI, with an artificial intelligence. Kind of interesting.
Very.
That was already being talked about in 1960.
No, you're right, dude. You're right. It says here it would seek out technological civilizations or alternatively monitor worlds where there is a likelihood of technological civilizations arising and communicate over short distances compared to interstellar distances between inhabited worlds. Once it's discovered a civilization that meets its contact criteria, it would make its presence known, carry out a dialogue with the contacted culture, and presumably communicate the results of its encounter to its place of origin. In essence, such probes would act as autonomous local representative of their home civilization and would act as the point of contact between the cultures. Pretty cool. So in other words, when it's time, you get like Princess Leia in Star Wars coming out and giving you like a holographic message. That's what it sounds like, dude. There's gonna be a lot, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because like it wouldn't be feasible to send, like, we'll just use ourselves for an example. Send a human, because we would never survive the trip. We would die long before we ever made it there. You know, if we're going by, you know, the laws of physics, you know, as we're taught right now, right? You know, if we're truly limited by the speed of light and all of that stuff, and we haven't figured out how to utilize wormholes or, you know, some kind of a quantum teleportation or something like that, there's going to be no way that we're going to be able to reach another civilization.
You know, I'm just thinking, Scott, of popular culture, right? You mentioned quantum teleportation there, right? But I think of Stargates. Then you think of like the TV show Stargate. Again, it's a TV show, folks. I'm not saying it's real. But they do pay special thanks to the Department of Defense and the Pentagon and Cheyenne Mountain, and you never know. But one thing that's really typical in that show, right? As opposed to them going to worlds with Stargates and then walking out and it's like Buck Rogers and sci-fi style, usually it's quite primitive planets they go to. They'll maybe still be in Stone Age. You know, they'll maybe just be kind of finding their feet. They'll be way, way younger or more or less advanced than us, per se. It makes you wonder again then, right? There's that kind of stone connection. These Stargates. Maybe this was something that was around in the ancient world. We hear about that as well. That's entanglement. It's got to be, right?
Exactly. Look, everything on the micro, you have to extend out to the macro. Okay. And so let's for example, ley lines. Okay. We talk about these ley lines that are laid across the planet, you know, these energetic connection points and all of that stuff. Well, who's to say there's not a universal network of ley lines? You know, why does it have to be just confined to our planet?
Well,
Wouldn't
let's
you
take
think
it further, Scott. You're right, because we talk about electric universe, right?
Exactly.
And it's full of electromagnetism. And electromagnetism, it's a carrier. It can carry information. So if it can carry information between point A and B, I think you're probably onto something.
Yeah. And so who's to say that these stargates, you know, these connection points aren't just a natural kind of occurring thing that is universal?
Is that why then maybe the pyramids have a little shaft pointing right at Orion? that you kind of like lining up the stargates there, man.
And maybe it's just a matter of these civilizations or species reaching a point of evolution on these various worlds to where they figure it out, or they stumble across it and they realize how they can how they can use this natural sort of stargate, this natural galactic ley line highway, if you will, you know. And maybe we're not the only ones who have figured it out. Maybe there's other species on other planets that figured it out as well, and
it's just another dimension, isn't it? Call it subspace, call it the fifth, the sixth. It's where you can literally go from A to B, where outside of time isn't relevant there, you know. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, maybe these intergalactic, I'm just going to call them intergalactic ley lines, or these intergalactic, you know, energy connection points. You know, maybe that's just where you have this sort of concentrated area of quantum entangled woo going on, quantum entangled particles. And so maybe there's like this grid that we can tap into that we just haven't figured out yet. Or maybe we have, you know, maybe some of these ancient cultures have figured it out.
So what happens, do you think? Is it, you reckon it's when a galaxy or something's formed? You can call that nuclear reactions and explosions that take place and shoot out everything that ends up becoming planets. They came from a hot, furnace-y, explosive place. There's a good chance all of that is entangled with that local star.
Well, exactly. I mean,
I don't know why I've got these hand signals going, man. I don't know what that's all about at all.
Going jazz hands on me. Kevin. I mean, look, we're all made of stardust. I mean, at the end of the day, even if you don't ascribe to the Big Bang thing, which I mean, but okay, let's just go with the Big Bang thing. That means we all originated from a singular point, right? We were all ejected from one singular point. So you would think that everything would be quantumly connected, quantumly entangled at some level, because it all originated from one singular source.
Yep. A singularity, no less, Scott.
Yes.
Yeah, everything you see today contained in less the size of a pinhead. There you go. We'll figure that one out. Imagine us all been entangled at a Big Bang. Dang, dude.
Yeah. Okay. So let's not even go with the Big Bang Theory, right? We can go on the more religious level here. God spoke the word. Let there be light. Still, everything came into existence out of one singular event. So, I mean, it still applies. You know, everything is quantumly entangled at some level. I just think that there's these more kind of, I guess you could say, these pathways that you could tap into. I mean, if you look at the structure of the universe, right, that they modeled out, it looks like neurons, right, that are all connected. You know, there's like, it looks like filaments that are connecting everything. And I think that it's kind of the same way with these intergalactic ley lines, if you will.
You think of the Birkeland currents, man. Birkeland currents, blatantly an electrical system that will carry charged particles from one galaxy to the next, you know?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So, yeah, I think that's what we're talking about when we talk about these stargates and these natural portals. That
there's just something about Stargate that resonates, man. And I know it was a good program, a great film, but there's just something about that. I don't know, man.
It's that embedded information that had, you know, sure, yeah, it was a movie, it was a series, but it's almost like it was the information that needed to come out. You know what I mean? It was like this kind of deep genetic memory thing that manifested itself in a movie and in a series. And I think you see that a lot with sci-fi. And I mean, look at Jules Verne and all of that stuff, you know, talking about space travel and rockets and all of that before rocketry was even a thing. It's just we're connecting with this information, you know, it's flooding into us. You know, and in certain individuals, it floods into even more, right? You know, like Nikola Tesla and all of that stuff. You know, I guess we could call it the Akashic record or the ether or whatever, but it's that information, man, and it's going to come to fruition somehow in some way. And I just think we see that a lot. I think that's why we see so much stuff that gets represented in sci-fi and then it ends up becoming
and it
a
ends
reality.
Up on Freaky Friday, and it's real.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Once it makes it here, it's very, very real. So yeah, that's all the Australian thing, and we've not moved on from Australia. It's just this is a potentially huge part of our story. Humanity's story. Mankind, person-kind. I know I'm kind of woke. Z-kind. I don't know what the given kind of PC term is. Person-kind now? Probably Z-kind. It-kind, them-kind.
They-kind, I guess?
They-kind, yeah, I suppose it covers everything, right? Bloody mankind, okay? Sue me. Oh. Sue me. Take me to the court of wokeness, but I wonder if that in any way explains why then, as we're about to find out in the second half of this show, just why it is that Australia has everything, Scott. From cryptids to UFOs, from UFOs to the kind of real weird deep woo associated with. I mean, we talk cryptid, you can't throw the Bunyip into just any other cryptid, right? It's got to be a league of its own for a start. It's got its own Bigfoot down there, like many other parts of the world. I don't know, dude. It's just it would seem that perhaps Australia was always destined to be full of woo. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying. It's like just Australia in itself is woo. You know, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's just so much there, so much mystery and intrigue.
Yes, indeed. And talking of that mystery and intrigue, let's start to really nosedive down the rabbit hole. Because we're going to take a look at 10 creepy unsolved mysteries from Australia. And every Freaky Friday loves an unsolved mystery, Scott, right?
Yeah, we need to have the theme music to Unsolved Mysteries. The old school Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Well, you got the Netflix version one now. I think their second season's coming on soon. Next month.
Nothing can beat the original. The OG.
I don't know. It was pretty good, but again, hashtag cancel Netflix. Okay, so number 10, Luna Park. Ghost train. Fire. Luna, not our friend Luna, but Luna Park. I'd never heard of this one, Scott. It says in June 1979, a happy family was waiting for a ferry to transport them to Luna Park, a popular amusement park located in Sydney. Jenny and John Godson had looked forward to this moment for a long time, wanting to spoil their two young sons with a fun day out. Now, after having visited the Charinga Zoo, they finally made their way to Luna Park, where they had a whale of a time going on all the different rides the park had to offer. At the end of the night, the family had to make a final decision before leaving for home. Which ride would they spend their final 4 tickets on? So the boys decided on the ghost train and headed off to the ride with their father, while Jenny went off on a short detour for an ice cream. And when she returned a few minutes later, she walked into a nightmare. Instead of seeing her husband and 2 boys having a fun ghost ride, she saw smoke billowing from the top of the train as it hurtled down the track, and employees trying desperately to get people off it each time it emerged from a tunnel. Jenny's husband and the 2 boys, along with 4 other passengers, didn't make it out. Now, sometime after the tragedy, Jenny came across some of the photographs taken during that horrible day and stopped to stare at one in particular. A picture of her son Damien, the last one ever taken, shows the little boy shyly posing next an intimidating figure wearing a demonic-looking mask with horns on his head. Now, I'm going to post that over at TFR in just a moment.
Whoa.
They were unable to locate the man later. After the fact, comparisons were made between the figure and the god, or demon, depending on which version of the story you read, Moloch.
Oh.
It is believed that Moloch preferred children in ritual-type events, shall we say. It was a sinister way to offer up humans to an ancient god, or was it to deliberate arson in a business dispute, as some others have claimed? And Jenny Godson believed something evil was at work, but the mystery of exactly who the horned, masked man was remains. That is spine-chilling, that photograph, and I'm going to post that to the TFR room right now. Let's see. That's pretty grim, Scotty boy, eh?
Wow. Yeah, that's some pretty unnerving stuff right there.
Gotta find the picture to send it over to me. 2 secs here. I will find it for you.
That is pretty creepy. That is pretty creepy, and
I'm gonna put a
yeah,
link.
you gotta look.
It's just not sending that at all. I'll put a link to the story in the chat over at TFR. There you go. No, I'd never heard of that, and I'd never seen that picture before. Because you
Yeah,
definitely remember that.
Yeah, I mean like that's you
That's what-
saw a dude walking around
Because that's
like
what caught
that.
me today. I was like, ah, bit of a really kind of grim, depressing story, but that entity, that horn thing right there, I don't know, dude. That's something pretty weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll be back after the break. Scotty's disturbed. It's disturbing. We like to get disturbed here on a Freaky Friday. Can you handle the woo? We'll be back after these short messages. Don't go anywhere. That is one scary looking dude. Whatever that mask is, that is not fun.
Yeah, you gotta wonder, like, were we dealing with a crazy guy who lit the train on fire?
That's what I
or-
thought when I read it today, dude. But it seems to be quite, you know, they could never find the guy. And
Yeah, or is this like an actual entity that appeared in the photograph? You know, I don't know, man. Super weird, super creepy.
very
I don't know.
creepy.
I don't know.
That should be a character out of a horror franchise. That's what that should be.
Yeah.
That's bad, man.
Yeah.
But we're going to move on to the next one when we come back after the break. Strange Disappearance, the next one. We like strange disappearances.
Ooh.
We deal in strange disappearances on Freaky Friday.
I wonder if it's missing 411 style or something even weirder. Makes you wonder. Makes you wonder indeed.
Indeed. So what else you been up to then, Scott?
Not much. Went out today. Went out to the Blind Tiger. Had a nice lunch. And yeah, just haven't really been doing too much. Been working on working on a project, actually. Something I've been wanting to mess around with for a while. I'm building my own custom install of Windows 10 that strips out all of the spying and all of the bloatware.
Okay.
So yeah. I'm actually running it on my computer right now. I actually reformatted my computer yesterday. So far so good. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. It seems to be running a lot faster when you remove all of the crap from Windows 10. So if anybody is interested, I might actually put a video up and maybe even provide a download of my custom build, because it's not piracy. Windows 10 is free. You have a key to activate it, then you're more than welcome to use your own key or whatever. But
And you're on the open mic this week, I think, are you not?
yes, Sunday I will be on the open mic with Polly. We'll talk about that.
I'm just watching the clock here for the network in case people are wondering why I'm not looking at you. Here we go. That's us. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen.
How dare you?
Now that there is far creepier than any Wookiee. I can tell you that for a fact. Greta, absolutely scary Mary. Scary Greta. So then, let us launch back into our 10 strange, weird, And I must admit, very, very dark opening to the 10 weird stories from Australia, right? But that character, that figure, that's definitely something that makes you go woo, that's for sure. But now we're moving into something a bit more Freaky Friday-esque. Disappearances, strange disappearances. And this one, the disappearance of Rihanna Barrow. So it says here 12-year-old Rihanna Barrow planned a walk to the local mall in South Australia in October 1992 to buy a card for her American pen pal. And she normally would have taken the bus, but bus drivers were on strike that day, and Rihanna didn't want to wait. Now, her mother agreed that she could go to the mall, said goodbye to her daughter, and then headed off to work. Now, people witnessed Rihanna walking along Highway Drive just before lunchtime, and this would be the last time that anyone saw her. Rihanna's mother arrived home that afternoon to find a card for her daughter's friend lying on the dining room table and a record lying on the floor. Now, the TV was blaring in an empty room. Calling Rihanna and receiving no reply, Miss Barrow started looking. First inside the house, then outside, and eventually going to neighbours asking if they had seen Rihanna that day. No one had. Police were called, but Rihanna was never seen again. And to this day, no one knows what happened to her. Now, in 2015, a police officer attempted to solve the now decades-old cold case, offered up a reward of $1 million to anyone who had credible information on Rihanna Barrow's disappearance. Nothing came after that either. After all these years, Ms. Barrow still lives in the same house, hoping against hope that her daughter might return. Or at least that there will be some kind of closure before she passes on. Now that's a weird one because, I mean, sounds like she got to the mall, bought the card that she was getting for her American friend, also bought a record maybe, or was listening to music when she got home. And it sounds like she obviously got home, the card's there. No trace.
Very strange.
Weird one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it comes to the outback and things, you can imagine that, in fact, it's probably unimaginable how many people probably go missing out there, and you maybe never know about it. You know, you think of these backpackers and things that are on gap years, stuff like that. Half the time, these people don't even stop to tell people where they're going. Do you know what I mean? And I know there's been famous stories over here. There was one in particular, a man and a woman couple. They had fell foul of an absolute psychopath that was going through up and down one of these and roads in Australia. Scott, you ever watch the trucking shows over there? It's like, even when you watch that, I still don't have an appreciation for how damn big that country is. And these roads are going forever, dude. Imagine being out there, you know? Nobody, no trace. Talk about no trace. Just gone.
Yeah. Like, so in this case, it sounds like it was kind of in a more urban area, and it makes me wonder.
Big time. That's why it's weird.
Yeah, but it makes me wonder if maybe we're talking about an intruder. You know, maybe a kidnapping or something like that. You know, breaking the house, but I don't know. Very strange, but you know, going to what you were saying about like the outback and stuff, I bet they have their own sort of missing 411 thing going on out there as well. Like just people vanishing without a trace. I'm sure that happens quite often.
Way too often, dude.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, big time.
Mm.
Then we move on to whaling at Wilga at Waterhole. In 1941, the Sunday Mail recounted the story of an employee of Ruthven Station in Queensland who decided to build a hut for himself and his wife to live in. Now, the hut stood on the banks of the Wilga Waterhole, close to the station, and his wife had no qualms about being at the hut alone while he worked. But he came home one night to find her in hysterics. Trying to figure out what had scared his wife so much, the station employee could only get out of her that she had heard paralyzingly terrifying screams and wailing emanating from the waterhole. Oh, dearie, dearie. Are we talking Bunyip? We know that they come from the watering holes.
Hey, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, it could be. So it says the
That's a
man...
possibility.
There is, isn't there? Because it sounds like
Yeah.
that Bunyip, it almost at times sounds like it's got a shape-shifting quality to it. And usually around water. But like our kelpies, dude. Not as good looking as the Loch Ness Monster. Heck of a lot scarier looking. It's Australian looking.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely on the table.
Yep.
Comes to...
So it says the man believed his wife had been scared by the screams of a bird. And he wasn't worried at all. He didn't think anything of it again until a few weeks later, when he had to be away on business for 2 days and nights. Upon his return, his wife was again hysterical, even worse than the previous time, and adamant that she heard wailing and screaming rising from the waterhole. Thoroughly spooked now by the state of his always level-headed wife, the man took her away from the hut and never returned there. When he left, he warned some of his colleagues about the creepiness of the waterhole. His colleagues were sceptical, and a couple of them decided to camp out next to the waterhole overnight. They stayed awake until after midnight, the only scare coming when an old bull bellowed and startled them. The men laughed at themselves and one by one fell asleep to the dying campfire. However, there's always a however in a story like this, Scott. However, it wasn't long before they were woken rudely from their dreams by a deafening wailing, increasing in volume with each shriek. The horrible sound was emanating from the waterhole, and the men threw their things together and hightailed it out of there. Not laughing so much now, were they? So,
yeah, well, it's so funny then.
So it says stories were rampant that the wailing could be from the ghost of a boy that had passed away after wild pigs had got a hold of his body, and he was found at the waterhole many years ago. Another tale states that a shepherd lost his life in the area, and his body was thrown into the waterhole. Skeptics believe that the shrieking is from the local species of owl, the powerful owl, or is caused by a subterranean channel. A subterranean channel, they say? They say tunnels and networks we're finding about under Australia now, Scott. Why wouldn't that... I mean, I'd be surprised if there wasn't tunnels and things under Australia, to be honest with you. It'd be the only thing it didn't have.
I don't know. You know what this also kind of reminds me of? Remember that video we watched where there was like the screaming coming from the sky?
Yeah. The guy runs outside and...
Yeah, you just heard like wild wailing and screaming coming from the sky. Kind of has that same quality to it. Dude, that'd freak me out though. Like,
yeah, if you were out in a metal hut, you just a metal hut, nobody around you, and you hear that banshee kind of wail coming at you, I'd be freaking out and all.
Yeah, it sounds like it's much more than just some local wildlife or something like that. If that many people are like freaked out by it, because you would think the locals in the area would know if it was like an owl or something.
Not buying it. Not buying it.
Yeah.
Unless it was an owl man the size of Mothman, and then I might buy it.
Oh, the owl man.
We're going to have to search for Australian winged humanoids.
Oh, nice. That's a good direction to...
Yeah. But before we get there, we've got one of these Naughty naughties. Popeye is who we
Uh-oh.
need for this, right? He's an expert on all of these kind of crazy cases. I love watching documentaries about this type of thing. What does that say about us? Because a lot of people like to watch documentaries that feature, these murderers that go on sprees. I can't say it, you know. You get it? Sequential passings.
Yes, people who engage in multiple deletions.
Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah.
Yes,
One of them.
Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy.
No, don't. He's a creep. You had to bring the clown into it, man. You had to bring the clown, didn't you? Damn, dude.
Yes, Popeye is our resident expert in all things involving these activities. But no, like you said, I mean, there seems to be this morbid fascination with the topic as well, and I think it's just the psychology involved because most people don't think that way. So it's like there's a fascination with trying to understand why somebody would do that. What what would possess somebody? Possess.
There you go. You never know. They're definitely evil. That's for sure. But the Tai Nong North serial passings. On December the 6th, 1980, a man dumping animal remains near Tai Nong North came across something that looked to him to be human bones. He immediately notified police, who then proceeded to uncover the remains of 3 women. 2 years later, the remains of a 4th victim was found in the same area, and the woman named Narumal Stevenson, who had been abducted a month before the first remains were found. Pretty increasingly dark, these ones, Scotty boy, but we were talking there about what fascinates us about these cases. What's even weirder than that? The way that so many women reach out to these cats that are like in jail for doing this. They're like queuing round the cell block, dude. Like sacks of mail these people get. I mean, it's one thing having like an interest in watching the documentary, but it's another thing altogether than like falling in love with them, right?
Yeah, there's a whole weird phenomenon of that.
Eye weirdness.
Yeah. I don't know what's up with that. There's obviously some strange psychology behind all of that, and I think the women who become fascinated with these characters who engaged in that, there's a lot of psychological issues that need to be dealt with, but it is strange. I think one of the more interesting cases of that was it the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez? And he had a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of women that were showing up and wanting to marry him and all kinds of craziness.
He was a whole heap of crazy, dude. He's a famous name. And then we had Lara Calhoun. She's an investigative journalist, reporter, that had really looked into the Ramirez case. Oh, dang, dude. Oh, dark. Very, very dark. You were saying, are they possessed? That guy, he looked like he was straight from hell. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he was an avowed, he was into that stuff.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was, he was just drawing the pentagram on his hand and holding it up in the court and was all, he was all about that. So, maybe there was some possession going on there. Maybe there was some demonic influence or channeling, if you will, because I'm not gonna use the old, well, they were possessed as a way to excuse their behavior. But maybe he willingly channeled that energy, and all it did was feed into his evil even more. You know what I mean? So
could be, man. Could be. Now, this is really weird. I like it. I had to wait to find out what this meant. And earlier on in the chat room, I've been talking about Donnie. And I seen Donnie talking about something. I thought it was like some kind of encrypted message he was trying to send me. She just typed in VHMDX. I'm thinking, what the heck's that? Is that like a chemical compound for something? I don't know what that is, dude. Number 6 on our list, though.
Ooh.
Yeah, now I know what it is, because it's a missing airplane, a missing Cessna called Victor Hotel - Mike Delta X-Ray. That's weird, man. That's pretty cool, pretty weird. Because I seen it in the chat room earlier, and I thought, nah, and then we just moved on, but here we are. Missing plane. On August the 9th, 1981, a Cessna 210, smaller to the one pictured, was going from Proserpine to Sydney with the 4 men on board. And it was just a regular flight for the 52-year-old pilot, Michael Hutchins, until the plane reached Taree and he saw bad weather approaching. Now, he requested permission to fly through restricted airspace to avoid the storm. But he must have decided his plane could handle it, because he didn't wait for permission. Instead, he continued on the original flight route. It was all downhill from there. Not long after passing Taree, a vacuum pump responsible for powering the Horizon simulator and heading indicator failed. And this meant that Hutchins had no sense of direction, flying west towards the mountains instead of the coastline that he was aiming for. And having to battle the strong winds and ice along with the vacuum pump failure, would be trying for any pilot. Now, the extreme turbulence seemed to be the last straw. And the last response from Hutchins was a terrified 5,000 before complete silence. Air traffic controllers could not find the emergency beacon or anything on radar. Land and sea searches involving hundreds of police, rescuers and volunteers lasted 9 days, but yielded no sign of the plane. Another extensive search a month later only raised more unanswered questions, and searchers exhausted all avenues of help, including the assistance of physicists or psychics and aviation experts. But the location of the plane and the fate of the passengers on board remains a mystery. Dang.
Oh.
Now, I know it's not the same size, but that's
yeah, MH370-ish.
Yeah. Big time, dude. A weird one.
Yeah, I wonder, did this occur over land or did it happen over the water?
Yeah, it says he had requested to fly through restricted airspace to avoid the storm. But he must have decided. Now, why restricted? Was it over the top of Pine Gap? Was it some kind of military test? What is it? Just a restricted? Why? Makes you wonder what he might have flown into.
Yeah, like was he flying over like an Australian Area 51 or something like that? I mean, who knows?
Bit weird though. It just kind of leaves that. He requested permission to fly through it, restricted airspace to avoid the storm, but he must have decided his plane could handle it. Either that, or more likely, he flew in before he got permission, and you're over restricted airspace, Dang, dude. And that would explain maybe why there was no trace of anything found either, right? Cover it up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I was thinking. Like, maybe he flew into that restricted airspace. They took it down and was like, oh, yeah, we don't know what happened.
Yep.
Let's see here.
Strange that your flight recorder, everything not working. weird.
Yeah, that's a strange one.
Like
But,
it.
you know, they could, like I said, if it was over land and they had at least kind of a rough idea of the last radar location, you would think that they would find debris on the ground, right?
Yep.
And the fact that there was nothing found, that just makes it really, really strange. Very odd.
Very odd. So the next one is Marree Man or Marree Man. And wow, I mean, tell you what, the old the glyphs, the Nazca lines. I mean, there's something else, right? But this thing I'm looking at here, Scotty Lopez. Look at the size of this thing, dude. And
Wow.
I'll definitely get that. Surely I can get this one into the chat room at TFR this time. Come on, surely. Let's see. I don't know why it's not letting me send them, dude.
It's probably because they're pictures from Pinterest, and
Maybe,
I don't think
yeah,
it.
could be.
I think
Could
it
be.
prevents you from.
Yeah, not doing it anyway. But this is like, no one knows who carved. Yeah, nobody knows who carved the drawing of the Marree Man. First witnessed by a tour guide in 1998 in the Australian desert. Now, the drawing stretches over 4 kilometres and depicted an indigenous man. Tourism spiked as word got out, but this angered some indigenous Australians who wished the drawing would simply disappear. And strangely enough, it is exactly what happened. A news article in 2015 features photographs showing an almost blank terrain where the man once was. And when the drawing was first discovered, conspiracy theorists suggested that the Marree Man might have been created by the military or by UFOs. Some believe that eccentric artist Bardius Goldberg was responsible for the drawing, as he once mentioned that he wanted to create a sculpture that would be visible from space. He passed away in 2002 before he could confirm or deny the rumours. Most artists want to take credit for their work, so, you know, who knows. But the mystery remains as to who the creator of the Marree Man was and what purpose of the massive drawing was supposed to be. Responsibility for the Marree Man's preservation is being shoved from one place to the next as the Marree Man slowly erodes back into the landscape. Yes, indeedy.
Yeah. If you look at the picture, if you look at the
Looks like a bit of a bird head, right?
Yeah, I was about to say it has kind of that bird head kind of goth look to it.
I wonder where he's pointing as well.
Mm.
Looks like pointing somewhere. Strange one, dude.
Very weird. Very strange.
Very weird. Oh. Right then, here's another one here. Nah, it's a bit dark as well, man. Okay then. Nah, that's not really good woo, right? Oh,
What was that
no.
one? Disappearance AE1? Was it a...
Yeah, well, this one here, at least it's not dark. The other ones are really too dark. This one here, the disappearance of AE1, and then on the other side, we'll get into the cryptids. We'll get into the UFOs. Full hour of full woo. Submarine HMAS Alpha Echo 1 had only been in Sydney for 2 days in 1914 when news came that Siberia had disregarded an ultimatum from Austria and that war was imminent. Just a few months later, Britain and Germany were at war, and Australia had no choice but to enter the war as well. AE1 and other warships were ready in August 1914 and sailed out on their way to Queensland on September the 2nd. Now, once the submarines arrived at the destination, they were to receive orders to set up a joint occupation of Rabaul, Papua New Guinea. And the occupation went as planned on September the 14th. AE1 and destroyer Parramatta set out from Rabaul Harbour for a patrol of Cape Gazelle. Both ships were to stay within viewing range of each other and ensure they re-entered the harbour before nightfall. At some point in the mid-afternoon, the Parramatta lost sight of the AE1, which had earlier requested information about visibility, and the crew assumed that the AE1 was headed back to Rabaul, and headed there as well, but didn't see the submarine as they went. And when by 8 o'clock that evening AE1 still hadn't returned or been heard of, a search was launched. Yeah. The search didn't turn up anything, or it wouldn't be mysterious and it wouldn't be on this list. So we'll be back after the break. Don't go anywhere. There we go. Yeah, a few dark ones towards the end here. That, no, just not when we've got such good woo around the corner, Scott. Like this kind of woo.
Oh, yes.
There you go. I'll give you a shot at this one, right? How's that sound? And I can wet my whistle, replenish my breathing bags, and I'll be fine. Woo! Telling you, dude.
I wonder if this missing submarine, if this happened in that triangle we were talking about, the Australian.
Is there an Australian Bermuda Triangle?
Yes.
Gotta put it in. It'll probably find it. Yep.
Yeah, remember the Bass Strait Triangle? That's what it was. I wonder if that's where it occurred at. I don't know.
I don't know, but there's somebody. Wow, I've never heard of this job title before, but I want it. This week is part of Australian Science Festival. Canberra crypto naturalist.
Oh, nice.
Is that like a naked cryptozoologist? Is that like just kind of code for being a naked one? You know, naturist, nudist. Oh, naturalist. I'm sorry. Hey, a naked Bigfoot hunter would have been fun. Good eye, mate.
I like his name. He's known as Tim the Yowie Man.
Tim the Yowie Man. Yep. The naked Yowie hunter. I think it'd be far funnier if he did go naked. But now we can take a look at that. We've also got the one I sent you there a moment ago, Scott. We've got Yowies that were 10 foot tall. We've got the thylacine. We've got heaps to get into, folks. Absolutely heaps. And on Sunday night, I will be over on KBS 1 for Warrior Mode. We've got Eddie Perez joining us. He's a producer, stunt coordinator, Emmy nominated, Emmy winning. He's worked on the US Shameless TV show. He's also done stunts for Star Trek Into the Darkness, I believe. I think that's the movie title anyway. He is going to be with us on Warrior Mode. So please, please, please join us for that one. Yeah, it's going to be a bit different, Scotty boy.
That's cool. That's cool, man.
Yeah, Travis has done these celebrity interviews before. No good for my woo-type probing that I do of people. The poor guy probably run off if I started interrogating them, right? Ain't ready for my woo. He ain't ready for the woo.
I'll be like, so, have you had any UFO experiences?
I heard that you took it beyond the tip and enjoyed it. Is it true?
Oh!
Was there a blue chicken anywhere involved in any of this fiasco? That's it.
You never want to be pecked by a blue chicken. It's not.
Nah, it's to be quite honest with you, it's rather foul. Come on, dude. When you're talking chickens, you have to, yeah, you know. Here we go. Is it that time yet? No, it's not. Yes, it is. Here we go. Foul. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen.
Keep your mind.
Oh, wrong one,
open.
wrong one, wrong
Keep
one.
looking.
Wrong one. I forgot the Wookiee.
How dare you?
Exactly, Kev. How dare me? I know, Scott. I know you're shaking your head there. I've got... Come on, man. He's in there somewhere as well, but I forgot where I saved him. We're moving into the final hour of Freaky Friday, Scotty. And I know that you have been digging up some UFO woo from Australia, right?
Yes, we've got some.
Because my 10 mysteries went really dark. I think we could only do about 6 of them. The rest of them were really horrendous, man.
Yeah, that was becoming one of those.
It felt great when I'd found it, like yesterday. It felt great. Right cool art, like really cool for Freaky Friday. But then after our Ancient Aliens start...
Probably should have skimmed through it.
No, well, I'd done like the top couple, but I didn't think there would be so many like bad people stories. Not enough bunyips, too many suspects of the human variety.
Too many suspects of the human variety. Yeah. All right, well,
What happens when you
let's
throw too many hairless monkeys into the mix, man? It gets weird and creepy, but not in a Freaky Friday way. You see?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. All right. So let's get in some aliens and UFOs. Sounds good
to me, man.
It sounds like a deal to me. So, aliens down under. Australia's top 5 spookiest UFO sightings ever.
Look at that place to begin with, Scott. Pine Gap. Damn, dude. That's everyone talks NSA, GCHQ, but that bad boy there. I would imagine if you flew a plane anywhere near that airspace, you're going to end up in a mysterious list of disappearances, right?
Yeah, isn't Pine Gap kind of like the Area 51 of Australia?
Yeah.
It's
more the
it's
listening post, yeah.
It's more of a data collection site. So it's
Five
more like
Eyes. Yep.
Yeah, it's more like the Buffdale, Utah.
Big time, dude. Big time.
Australia. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, Area 51, the Bermuda Triangle, Roswell. Why are the most famous UFO mysteries so United States centric? Movies probably have a lot to do with it. In fact, it was the Independence Day Resurgence home entertainment release last week that got us thinking. What about Australia? See, Kev, we're not the only ones thinking about going to Australia for the woo. Even Mashable's like, we got to go down under and dig up what's going on down there.
Others have tried, Scott. Not like us. Not like us, man.
No. It says, our overseas mates might be surprised to learn that Australia can really hold its own when it comes to spooky UFO reports and abduction testimonies, with mass sightings, alien hotspots, and even a mysterious oceanic triangle of its own. Down Under has its fair share of alien stories to tell around the campfire. Want to hear some? Absolutely. It's almost Halloween after all. Granted, it's not a holiday directly associated with aliens, but you get it. Mary Rodwell is the founder and principal of the Australian Close Encounter Resource Network. Ooh. And she says she's the person you call when you spot a potential UFO. FYI, especially since the Royal Australian Air Force, the RAAF, officially stopped looking into reported sightings in the 90s. She says that it's due to Australia's large size and small population that you don't hear about UFO sightings more. She told Mashable, a lot of the time, So we don't get it. UFO sightings recorded, or people don't want to talk about it, particularly in more isolated places where farmers see stuff as they do and have that experience. I have people contact me every week. So this isn't just dear old America here. This is everywhere, she said. While it may be happening everywhere and on the regular, there are some definite Aussie standouts when it comes to UFO tales. And thanks to Rodwell, we have some leads on the best ones. So starting with this first one here, the mass sighting at Westall High School. The Westall incident is often referred to on the dark corners of the web as Australia's most significant mass UFO sightings. It occurred in 1966 at Westall High School in Melbourne. Over 100 students, teachers, and members of the public claimed to have seen 3 metallic objects in the sky hovering closely. Afterwards, witnesses claimed they were paid a visit by dun 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 the Men in Black. And teachers said they were told to dismiss the incident by police and military authorities. A case of mass hysteria or something more?
It did tell me in the story. I thought that was a cue for me to play the X-Files music there, but this one here, Scott, Ben Emlyn Jones, he's a long-time researcher of this case. To him, it's one of the more fascinating ones, mass sightings. And the fact that there's alleged Men in Black activity, and teachers said that they were told to dismiss the incident by the police and military. The military ain't coming out unless there's something, bringing them out in the first place. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's something somewhere. There was definitely something weird going on there, for sure.
Definitely some high strangeness going on.
Yeah.
And when you start having, when you start getting visits from the Men in Black and the military telling you to shut your mouth and don't be talking about what you saw, then there definitely was some very, very strange and shady shenanigans going on. No doubt.
We had Stan Gordon on with Warrior Mode last week, and he's somebody that researched the Kecksburg UFO back in the early 60s, and he's been researching all of the UFO Bigfoot stuff since then. And he's another one that mentioned, the people that he's spoken to that have had dealings with these Men in Black. And just like Nick Redfern did, and just like Lon Strickler as well, these are people that have spent decades looking at these topics, and the Men in Black comes up, and all 3 of them, they must have over 100 years between them looking at this stuff. They all say that these Men in Black are every bit as weird and supernatural as the UFOs and the other cryptids that usually they show up around, It's weird. It's not like a lot of people think when you talk Men in Black, though, you're thinking, the feds. I get it. Some people might describe the feds as the Men in Black, but it's a totally different ball game altogether. An entirely different entity that you're dealing with.
Yeah, there's something inhuman about them.
Yeah.
They're not
like us.
Yeah, they're not like us. Just the whole the Men in Black thing on its own is just a completely crazy and weird rabbit hole to go down.
Yep.
All right, so continuing on here, and we actually covered this before, and this is a really bizarre and crazy incident, and I believe it occurred in the aforementioned Bass Strait Triangle. So this is the story of Frederick Valentich, the pilot that vanished. Says, okay, this is a doozy. In 1978, a 20-year-old pilot and UFO enthusiast. Oh, I didn't even know that. He was a UFO enthusiast. Interesting. So, Frederick Valentich was flying over the Bass Strait, separating Tasmania and mainland Australia, when he radioed air traffic control in Melbourne. In the transmission, the young man described an object hovering 300 meters, or about 1,000 feet above him, and said it was not an aircraft. He made statements like, "It has a green light and a sort of metallic light on the outside, and it's coming for me right now," before his signal was lost. His plane disappeared without a trace.
Pretty strange, man. Pretty strange.
Yeah. I just find it interesting that he was a UFO enthusiast and then he ended up having this experience and then just disappearing. You know?
And I need to play the music before the next one. There you go, Scott. You can take it away now.
All right. Our next case here.
Deep Woo.
Kelly Cahill, the X-Files inspiration. Ooh. Australian woman with the pseudonym Kelly Cahill was referenced in the first rebooted episode of the X-Files because that's how cool her case is. In 1993, she and her husband were driving through the Dandenong Ranges when they saw a big old blimp thing and went to get a closer look. Next minute, Cahill wakes up in her own car feeling oddly relaxed. The couple returned home only to realize they'd lost an hour. That Cahill had a painful triangular mark near her belly button. Over the next few weeks, she experienced flashbacks, eventually appearing on TV program Today Tonight to tell the story of her abduction. And I guess they above it there, but you know we can't play it because of the algorithm. I'm sure we'll flag it.
Missing time though. Missing time, dude.
Missing time, and yeah, that gets weird. Then you start having flashbacks, and then you have actual physical markings where something happened. Very strange. Okay, our next case here. The case of the Knowles family. Believers like Mary Rodwell say the 1988 experience of Faye Knowles and her 3 sons and their 2 dogs is one of the most significant close encounter testimonies ever. Also reportedly involving several witnesses, the story goes involves the family witnessing an egg-like bright structure. They then went on a high-speed car chase against the object, climaxing when the family's car being lifted from the road as a weird black dust, high-pitched sound, and horrible smell overwhelmed the car. I felt like my brain was being sucked out, said the eldest son at the time. That's pretty wild. So I don't know. I'll have to go through and watch some of these videos because for the radio listeners out there, there's
let's hear what it says. It's 12 minutes.
Okay.
It's 12.
Plane. Terrified members of the Knowles family claimed a bright flying object sucked their car off the ground.
It was early yesterday morning when the Knowles family had their close encounter on the Nullarbor Plain. About halfway between Melbourne and Perth, their blue Ford Telstar was chased by what they told police was an extremely bright white light. The egg-shaped object hovered above the car, lifting it more than a metre off the ground. police at Ceduna in South Australia were today at a loss to explain the sighting.
The sun.
Samples of ash taken from the Knowles car have been sent to police forensic scientists for study.
Samples of ash from their car taken away for study? What?
Wow.
So far, the results of
That's like kind of crazy stuff, man.
That's just some wild UFO woo.
Yeah, we'll go with
Right.
this. Yeah, we'll go with it. We will go.
those tests are unknown. Tony Coughlin, Eyewitness News.
A head mash and a leg.
Bizarre kind. A Perth family claims it's been confronted by a UFO while crossing the Nullarbor. Their stories being backed by other motorists, and the crew of 2 South Australian fishing boats have also reported being buzzed by a UFO. Faye Knowles and her 3 sons claim an orange blob picked their car up off the highway. They fled in terror into the scrub until the object disappeared.
For the Knowles family.
Is it just me, or could you just not listen to that accent all night? It's like they're singing to you. Dang, dude. Dang. Imagine AOC with an accent like that. Oh, dear me.
It was to have been a routine drive across the Nullarbor. That all changed as the family approached the town of Mundrabilla on the Air Highway.
The town of Mundrabilla, right by the creek and the Billabong. And bloody UFOs, mate.
They claim that's when they had their unexpected and terrifying encounter with the unknown.
The car was shaking. I went down the window and I said it's on top of the roof. And all this, I don't know what it was, it all come inside the car like smoke. We thought we were all dead.
And I went down my window and Mum said there's something on the roof. And I said, no, come off it, you know, you've got to be joking. And she went down her window and she put her hand on the roof and she goes, my God. She goes, what is it? And no, I swear to God, I'm not lying. I swear to God, I opened up my window and the car started going out of control. And all this smoke, and it was like smoke. I'm not lying. It was like smoke. And gases all started coming in the car. And me and my brother started to go crazy, you know. I thought it was going in my head. Felt like my brain was getting sucked out.
Another motor.
Whoa. Whoa. Now listen. In Australia, as one toxic man here in Scotland, I have a deep admiration for the masculinity and the manliness of men in Australia. And I would imagine it takes a lot for a rugged, manly Australian to probably head down to the pub and tell his mates about his brains almost getting sucked out of his nose by aliens. Unless it actually happened, Scott. Because I'd imagine that all the Bruces, they're going to be nudging each other. Oh, they're the maniac back again. They're brain boy back, you know? Dude, that is one horrendous story.
It almost sounded like okay, so I mean, maybe we can go to a couple directions with this. One, the tractor beam thing, right? Like your
Travis Walton type story, the light coming down and that, you know?
Yeah, your kind of atypical, you know, representation of the tractor beam coming from the bottom of the UFO and then trying to suck up the abductee or whatever. Or are we talking about this UFO buzzing the car and the car being caught within the propulsion system, like the field that's being generated around the UFO? If it has some kind of strange anti-grav technology, right? Anything caught within its sort of field is going to experience this anti-grav effect as well, right? And so, you know, if this thing buzzed over the car and the car got caught in that, you would probably have to assume that everybody in that car is going to be experiencing the effect of all of this, you know, these forces, the pressures and everything, you know, that emanates from this UFO. And that's probably why it felt like he said his brain felt like it was being sucked out of his head. Can you imagine being caught kind of in the in the wake of the propulsion system of a UFO or something like that with some kind of anti-grav tech.
Remember Travis Walton, though? Fire in the Sky, famous, probably one of the most famous UFO stories. I mean, when you listen to his story all in, I mean, it sounds to me like whatever they'd done to him with that beam of light, it was unintentional, and almost like they almost like felt responsible for him after they had, thrown him back and whatever happened when the light hit him. And that's what the abduction kind of experience was. It was almost like making sure he was okay. So is this something similar, Scott? Have they been caught up in the same kind of thing, like Travis Walton, Like you said, I mean, what does that feel like when you're in that beam? Usually we can't ask the cows that are usually seen getting beamed up, you know what I mean? Funnily enough, they don't live to tell the tale. Not that they could anyway. But how does that feel when you're getting soaked in an aircraft? Probably like your brain's coming out your head.
Well, probably, or what effect does it have on the human body if you're standing next to something that's generating a anti-gravitational field? I'm sure it probably isn't very good for the human body. Let's just put it
I think that's the way of telling a real abduction from a LARPing abduction. If they remember how bloody painful it was getting soaked up like a vacuum cleaner coming along and taking them off the ground, that's going to have problems.
Yeah, if they could remember strange forces acting upon their body and their what feels like their
it's elevator
brain.
Music when they're pulling you up there,
No, I'm sure there's a lot of.
Maybe they play the Love Boat.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that's.
You can tell it's getting close to the end of Freaky Friday now, Scott. You can tell it's getting there. The adrenaline, the silliness is kicking in. Loving it.
Yes.
But dude, look at this place. Look at this place that's coming up, man. It's like they're Roswell. Or over here we've got Bonnie Bridge. That's like our designated dark area in Scotland because it's our UFO hotspot. Wycliffe Well then, Scotty. This is the Australian UFO one then.
If you scroll down a little bit, it looks like it's basically their little Roswell. Look, they even got a sign and everything. It looks like they got a whole tourist kind of a gig going on around it. So, yeah, Wycliffe Well, self-described UFO capital. UFO hobbyists rejoice. Australia's has got its own tiny town, chock full of cute alien signposts. It's a great place for a roadside Instagram. Wycliffe Well is found in the Northern Territory, and it calls itself the UFO capital of Australia. While the idea that it actually experiences nightly UFO sightings is up for debate, there's no doubt that it's got the quirkiest caravan park for miles around. Oh, interesting. Hey, if it's that much of a hotspot to where they claim that there's nightly sightings, might have to be a place to check out if you're for anybody down under.
Our good friend Luna, story sticks out in my mind when she was on one of the times we done our Down Under shows, and she was talking about I'm not sure if it was near the Gosford Glyphs. I've got that in my mind, but it might not be, but it's irrelevant. It was her and I think it was her other half were out, and these things were just right over the top of them, dude. Like right over the top of them, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, either into a mountain or over the top of it. And her and her man just kind of looked at each other and said, "You see that? Yeah, seen that. Bam, dude." You know what I mean? And Luna, they say they're there all the time.
Oh, I bet. And with how sparsely populated Australia is, like the population of Australia compared to its size, I bet there is a lot of activity that is going on that I bet a lot of people don't even witness you know, just because of how sparsely populated it is. But
well, Scott, think of this, right? Yeah, Australia is mainly the coastline. I mean, vast swathes of it, you know. But Luna wasn't a mountain, right? So that's pretty interesting, isn't it? Because last week we were talking about the bell at one point, anti-grav craft, but we also talked about another piece of ancient technology that they may or may not have brought back from the Himalayas. Remember that doorway in the mountain? You know, the Native Americans call mountains natural stargates. In fact, they pretty much, they're like highly significant to Native American people. You know, highly significant. And they're called stargates, and now we've got talk here of them just flying into a mountain in Australia. I've seen the ones where you see lights going into volcanoes. And then you've got the bad guys from World War II that was working on this stuff, and they cut an entrance out the side of a mountain and took it home with them. Now that's some good woo. We'll be back on the other side. Don't go anywhere. And Scott, if it's of that same rock that was in the mountain, that was obviously in our hypothesis entangled with another place somewhere else, if you cut that rock from that same mountain, does it still have that same properties? You'd imagine it's still there.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you're just transporting that rock that has that quantum entanglement. That's, you know, that doesn't change.
We need to write a book or something, dude. It could be like better than Dan Brown's. You know, we could go to Australia. We can throw in the bad guys from World War II. I'm telling you, man, we can forget the Da Vinci Code. We'll make it insignificant, like, Scott. I'm telling you.
Indiana Jones meets X-Files meets
Kevin Scott's Bogus Adventure. I'm sure people have done bogus adventures before, but our one will be a good one. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, Bill and Ted went on a bogus journey. So, yeah.
Mammoth says, well, Luna says, first of all, half the time you don't know they're there. They're silent. She also says, good question, and that was about if they take that rock home, does that still be a Stargate? What else we got in there? Mammoth, most people live on the coast. Yeah, Canberra. That's the kind of weird one, right? It's inland. And that's the capital, which is kind of weird. Yeah, a bit weird.
Like I said, it's like the desert Southwest, where it's very sparsely populated, and you can just go miles and miles and miles with nothing out there. And I bet there's all kinds of craziness going on out in the outback, in the central part of Australia. It's just
full woo. From Billabong to Billabong. I'm telling you, man. It's just full woo. There you go.
Is it okay? So, like Alice Springs, isn't that just like smack dab in the middle?
That's right where is Alice Springs, not where it's quite near where Pine Gap is. I might be wrong there. I could be wrong. Yeah, Canberra's a little bit in, not much. Adelaide, Melbourne. Dang, dude. Cairns. That's where they'll go surfing, I think, isn't it? I think. Great Barrier Reef. Big shout out to Dan if he's still listening. I know he almost stopped listening when I was doing my Australian accent, but hey, it is what it is. It is what it is, you know, Bruce. So, Uluru, there we go. Uluru. Ayers Rock. Darwin. Yeah, man. Brisbane. Where was Neighbours filmed? Where was Home and Away filmed? That's where I want to be. Summer Bay. Oh, damn, dude, it just looks heavenly, man. Heavenly, Scotty. Heavenly. When you grow up in a climate like Scotland, somewhere like Australia is going to appeal to anyone. Trust me. Trust me. Big time. I've got a lot of friends actually went out there for, you know, like a kind of gap year type stuff. That was a favourite kind of place to go, out to Australia. I know a few boys that went there. Good time.
There's a lot of similarity. I find a lot of similarities between.
Here we go.
Okay.
Welcome back. Final segment before we hand off to the #1 paranormal show in the world and the next world and the other and more and more. And that is, of course, Brent Thomas with the Paranormal Portal. He will be along in just under half an hour. But until then, we're still talking about Woo Down Under. Yes, that's right. We have gone all the way to Australia. And I tell you what, it hasn't disappointed. Because, I mean, we've hardly even got into the cryptids yet, Scotty. And during the break, we were taking a look at the map of the place. I would just love to get down there for the weather. Anything to get away from the Scottish weather. Anything to get away from the Scottish government. But that's in our show as well. But, yeah, man. Tonight, a lot of Woo thrown into one episode, and we've still got more to come.
Yeah, I mean, Australia has been bringing the Woo. We have not had any issue of running out of Woo when it comes to Australia. They definitely they bring it, man. And yeah, so what do we have next? We got some cryptid going on.
Yeah. I think we'll take a look at this Yowie story. It comes from a year ago, actually. Hey!
Mysterious black disc seen flying over Wrexham Woo.
Awesome. Is that Wrexham, Australia? I'm only joking. That'll be Wrexham in Wales, I would imagine. If we get a chance, we'll take a little look at that. Thank you, DJ. Much appreciated. But right now, let's take a look at this one, Scott. The Yowie. Best Yowie audio ever heard. Oh, we like it when we've got something to listen to. Bigfoot hunters claim a 10-foot beast stalked them in bushland before it ran into a cave where they recorded a grunting sound. Oh, let me find this. Wow! Here we go, man. No, I get it. It's looped, and that makes it chilling. There's something weird about that. And I know what people say. I know you skeptics out there go, it could be a dog, could be anything, could be, but because it could be anything, it could also be a 10-foot tall Yowie. You know what I'm saying?
All I know is that if I heard that, I would not be wanting to see what was down in that cave.
Do you notice how there wasn't any footage from in the cave? No, they didn't go in the cave either, Scott. They stood at a safe distance, whatever it was, I would imagine.
I like how it was. If you noticed up in the corner of the video, it said it was posted by the National Yowie Research Center in Australia. So they
take their cryptids seriously, man.
They got a group out there that's trying to get to the bottom of this whole Yowie situation.
Yowie's there. Wild video. Yetis in the Himalayas. Wild men here. You guys in America, you just take it too far. You've got like skunk apes, you've got Bigfoot, you've got Sasquatch. You got a whole host of names for the one big beastie, man. Telling you.
Well, we have many different environments and ecosystems.
Is it like crypto rights, like state rights and things like that? Is it like a federal system of cryptozoology you have over there, right?
Hey, I'm just waiting for the skunk ape to, they're gonna band together and form their own autonomous zone.
I thought they already had in Chop. Was that? There's a lot of hairy people there. That's all I'm saying. Woke people seem to be very, very hairy. That's all I'm saying. It says here.
Yeah.
They tend not to shave, Scott. 2 men have claimed that they were stalked in a tunnel by a 3-meter beast that they believe to be a Yowie in the region of New South Wales. And all that joking and laughter got wiped out there the minute I read 3-meter beast. Holy shamoly. So Australian Yowie hunter has shared incredible audio of men, or audio the men recorded, of the creature in Nunes. Newnes. I'm going for Nunes. Nunes. In New South Wales, not North South Wales. That'd be a bit weird. In the Middle Wales. Central Tablelands. And this was March last year. So it was captured in the popular Glowworm Tunnel in Wollemi National Park near Lithgow. And the mythical beast, which is Australia's version of the Bigfoot, can't be seen in the footage, but makes its presence known with its loud, eerie howl. I remember we've listened to a few noises on here before, Scott, that claim to be like Yowie noises or Bigfoot noises, skunk ape, call it what you will. But that kind of shrieking, like we heard there, we'll play it one last time. That is the kind of thing that is associated with it. I mean, I have to admit. Weird one.
Sounds like a kind of like a grunting sort of, I don't know what to describe it as. I mean, it doesn't sound like a dog barking or anything like that. Kind of reminds me of wasn't there some like audio from the 70s? I think it was. There's some that was recorded on tape. That was more of like a grunting noise. I don't know. It just, yeah, it's definitely weird. It's like I said, I wouldn't be going down that cave to find out what was making that noise.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I'm not going down there to investigate if I heard that.
Because,
I'd be like, all right.
You know, Scott, if it isn't a Bigfoot or a Yowie, it could be, oh, here we go, man. Probably the ugliest looking cryptid imaginable in the universe. Weird. Look at that thing, man. The Bunyip. The Bunyip. Yes, we saved the best for last. I think this one, it is the best. And there's almost a feel of the Loch Ness Monster about it. I'm not saying it's a humped monster that goes about the waters or it's in a lake or anything. It's confined to one lake, because it's not. I don't know. 18 facts about the Bunyip. Then we'll see. We'll see if the similarities are there. Number one, the Bunyip. So it says, no one knows exactly what the Bunyip looks like, but they know to stay away. It says the Bunyip gobbles up children and livestock if they inch too close to the edge of the water. It mainly preys upon women and children in the darkness of the night.
Ooh.
Yes, indeedy. So the Bunyip is an aquatic mammal. It has smooth skin, apricot eyes, and a bellowing cry that is released before pouncing on its victims and having a nice dinner, shall we say.
Wait,
is that a bit like the last one?
Let's go back here. Remember that story of the whaling at the water?
Yeah, the Waterhole. Yeah.
The screaming. And you kind of.
But it was an owl, Scott. It was an owl. Don't worry about it. It's just a local owl, you know?
I think he even said, was it the Bunyip? But was it? That's the. If this thing is coming out of the water and it's got this weird bellowing cry,
water dogs, another kind of name for them that Donnie's put out there before. These things are bad news, dude. Bad news. So it says, the bunyip is a mythical creature from Australian Aboriginal mythology. It lurks in swamps, billabongs, creeks, riverbeds, and waterholes. The most frequent reports of bunyip sightings came from the southeastern colonies of Victoria, New South Wales, and South Australia in the 1840s and 1850s. Legend says that a man named Bunyip once broke the rainbow serpent's greatest law by eating his totem animal. Now, after that, he was banished and transformed into an evil spirit that lured tribesmen and their animals into the water for dinner. Holy shimoly. Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah. So the native people have differing opinions of the bunyip. Some people said it's a bloodthirsty bad guy. Others have called the bunyip a punisher sent to Earth to bring justice to anyone who commits evil acts and to protect the wildlife. Now, you know, that's a whole range of things right there, right? One thing I would say, if it's coming from mythology, I ain't ruling out the existence of these bad boys today. That's all I'm saying. You wouldn't catch me sleeping by a watering hole, Scott, by a billabong, by a creek, anywhere that one of these things might be hanging out. Not for me.
If you're by the water and you start hearing some wailing and shrieking and some crazy screaming noise.
Hey, Germanus, thank you. You see, this is what gets me though, right? Damn, dude. It's a shapeshifter, right? So there I am, down in Australia. You know, it's roasting. I find myself a nice spot, a watering hole. I think I can camp here for the night. Spark up a fire. The next thing I know, this cracking looking Australian chick turns up, right? She's got it all going on. She's not even called Sheila, right? And she sits down. You know, I'm going to be awfully taken by that accent and her singy type accent, right? But at the end of the day, you know what's going to happen. You do know what's going to happen, Scott. You're going to move in and then all of a sudden, boom, bunyip in the room. There's no getting out of it at that point, man. You've done it. Shh, it's gone.
Yeah, see, you think you're chilling and having a good time with a
where your
fine
masculinity
Australian
gets in the way. I tell you, man, the masculinity can be it's a hindrance.
The next thing you know, you get bunyipped. That's what happens.
Damned. Sounds like an app. Sounds like one of these apps that youngsters have for dating now. Bunyip that one, bunyip that one. No, swipe right. Hey, bunyip! So then, it's believed to have supernatural powers. It can alter the water level, cripple victims with its roar, and hypnotize humans to act as its slave. I just got a really weird image of like a big cryptid and then like Jungle Book, the snake eyes going round and round. Probably doesn't look anything like that, but that's weird, dude. I mean, you think of other cryptids in the water, like Nessie. Nessie's got a bit of shape-shifting going on. It doesn't have anything near the, like, this kind of lore around it. Nothing, dude.
Yeah, I'm not seeing
as exciting
Nessie.
as it gets is maybe somebody seen a couple of humps in the water. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not hearing about Nessie hypnotizing people and
enchanting locals and tourists, you know. Coming out playing the bagpipes with a kilt on or something. None of that. I'm quite disappointed in the Nessie now. Says here. It's just a shadow of the cryptid that this Australian ancestor of it is, you know? In 1851, the newspaper called the Australianism, not the Australasian, even, published Australianism. That's a harsh form of Australianism that government's pushing right now. I'm telling you. Oh, dear.
Oh,
So they
my
published
God.
a report about a bunyip being speared after... Whoa. So a bunyip being speared after having a fight with an Aboriginal man. Creature was 11 paces long and 4 paces in width. And Aboriginal people used to visit the site of the creature every year and outline its form, but those outlines have been lost over time. That's a weird one. Very weird.
So it was kind of like a rare case of one that had actually been killed. And they
Yep.
So they would go out
maybe
there
not,
and they
maybe not, because it just said speared. I mean, maybe it got away. Who knows?
Well, they were obviously able to figure out how long and how wide it was, so I'm assuming they killed it. And then they were tracing around its dead body, is what I'm assuming.
A bit vague, the bunyip, so maybe it just disappeared.
Or they traced around the original thing and then would go back and try to keep that tracing, to preserve the trace of it. But yeah, that's very interesting.
Bunyip has long claws, but it prefers to give you a cuddle and squeeze and keep squeezing and keep on squeezing until pop. You get the idea. Cuddled.
Ow.
Cuddled to death, Scott. Dang, dude. Witnesses have trouble describing the appearance of the bunyip. The most powerful description is that it looks like an enormous starfish. Now, hang on. However, some people claim it looks like a snake with a beard. And others argue it has a dog face, a crocodile-like head, dark fur, a horse-like tail, flippers, walrus-like tusks, and a duck-like bill. Now, all of that can be true if it does shapeshift, right?
That's what I'm saying. This thing, it's like this shape-shifting amalgam of whatever. Yeah, it's weird. Maybe it's like its form of camouflage or something like that.
Weird one, huh?
Yeah, very strange.
See, that's the part that kind of it does. I mean, I know, like I was saying, this thing's got a far lot more going for it than the Loch Ness Monster, but you've got the water, you've got the shape-shifting ability. I don't know, man, it's weird. So the earliest sightings describe the bunyip as having countless eyes, sharp claws, a fast speed, and a hollow boom, or a hollow boom, that it used to communicate. And other witnesses claim it has one large eye on its head and a mouth on its stomach.
Oh.
It doesn't make sense. Your brain just is struggling to get that, Bam. So some say the bunyip has the characteristics of a bird and an alligator. They believe it has a long bill with serrated edges like a stingray. And its body and legs are thick and strong like an alligator, but its forelegs are much longer than its hind legs. The bunyip swims like a frog in water, but walks on its forelegs on land with its head erect. When it stands, it reaches 12 or 13 feet. Scott, 12 or 13 feet? That's going to make that Yowie that was yelping in the cave look small by comparison, right? You said, what, 10 feet for that?
Yeah.
That's not so, dude.
Dude. It's like a horrific creature you would not want to come across.
This is the daddy cryptid of that weird dimension, right? What cryptid would you put up against this in a fight? You can't use any of your magical little people that we had when Jason was on. It's gonna laugh at them. You know?
This thing could shapeshift into whatever it wanted to defeat, to do battle with whatever it was going to try to take on. That's the crazy thing.
I'll tell you this thing, if you ever see one of these, burn it. Send it straight back to hell where it came from. I'm telling you, man. Damn, dude.
It seems like it can morph and adapt on the fly to whatever situation it feels like it
a
needs
crypto
to.
chameleon.
Yeah.
That. Yep. So over the years, fossils have been uncovered that could be associated with the bunyip. There were remains of an unknown animal discovered in 1818 by Hamilton Hume and James Meehan in Lake Bathurst in New South Wales that resembled a manatee or a hippopotamus. And in 1830, there were unidentified fossils found in Wellington caves that were much larger than the ox or buffalo. In July of 1845, fossils were found near Geelong, and a newspaper article was written called Wonderful Discovery of a New Animal, which claimed that the fossils were evidence of a bunyip. I tell you, no fossils of Nessie. No. I'm trying to think of any other fossils of any cryptids out there. Struggling, Scott. Struggling. Yep. Geelong. I know that Geelong, because I watch the Australian football sometimes. They've got a good team. Anyway, moving on. In January of 1846, a skull was found in the Murrumbidgee. Yep, I think I got that right there. Murrumbidgee. Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Near Balranald. Yep. It was placed in the Australian Museum in Sydney and labelled as a bunyip skull, but it was later to be proven as the skull of a disfigured calf. Not on Freaky Friday. That sounds like a cover story, Scott. Yeah.
Exactly. That's just what they want you to think.
The first written description of the bunyip came in 1845. It claimed the creature laid massive pale blue eggs and a deadly claws, powerful hind legs, and a brightly coloured chest, and an emu-like head. This is why some people believe that the bunyip was only The bunyip was only a southern cassowary or an Australasian bittern, which is sometimes referred to as the bunyip bird. Nah, not having that, Scott. No. 1933, Charles Fenner suggested that the bunyip was actually a seal. Not buying it. Not buying it. Not once did anyone say it bounced a beach ball off its nose. That's all seals do, right? So, some researchers believe the bunyip.
Never came across a shape-shifting seal that has multiple eyes and.
You see somebody in the chat, Murrumbidgee. See, I got it, Murrumbidgee. It's easy. So, that's a good one, Scott. Some researchers believe the bunyip is a prehistoric marsupial, the Diprotodon Diprotodon australis, which is supposed to have gone extinct 46,000 years ago. I say that's interesting because one of the common Nessie theories is the plesiosaur, right? So, don't know. It says here, finally, the word bunyip comes from the Wurgai, I've definitely got that one wrong, language of the Aboriginal people of southeastern Australia. It translates to devil or evil spirit. I told you you had to burn it and send it straight back to hell. I was right. So in the 1850s, the word was also used.
I'll go with the literal translation of what the native people call it.
Yeah.
If they say, "Hey, this thing is the devil or evil spirit," or if that's the sort of label they're putting on this thing, it would make a lot. It seems to. It makes sense to me. If this thing's shape shifting and snatching people and doing all kinds of weird stuff. How else could you describe something like that? It sounds like
Look at these pesky pommies moved over there and changed it all. Pesky pommies, man. 1850s, the word was used as a synonym for imposter or pretender. I mean, not two things you would ever accuse a real bunyip of being, by the way. In 1853, it was used to...
Wouldn't that also sort of make sense if it's shape-shifting into something else?
Could do. Oh, no, we're about to shape-shift into... Brent Thomas and the Paranormal Portal. We're out of here. Later. There we go, dude. There we go. Damn. So it says in 1853 it was used to describe Australians aspiring to be aristocrats. Oh, yes. Look at you, G'day, mate. He's a bit of bunyip, that one. No, nobody. I bet you nobody ever got called a bunyip in that context. Never. Never, ever, ever. So it was used to describe members of the Conservative Liberal Party of Australia opposition. The bunyip has also been called Kian Pratty or Wowie. Oh, I like that one. Aye, the Wowie. Wowie. It looks awfully like, it looks very much like Yowie and almost looks like Woo. A Wooey. Yeah.
Woo.
So I hope anyone tuning in, anyone who's stuck with us the whole way, especially our Australian friends, myself and Scott, we apologise for any mispronunciations. I can't even read words from Scotland. Give me a break, But I had fun, Scott. And I don't think we even scratched the surface, man. I really don't.
There's plenty more woo lurking around in the outback.
Yes, it's the woo. It's the woo we haven't covered that you got to be scared of. That's where the real woo comes in, Scotty boy. Yes. So what are they saying here now? Well, all the Australian people, they're all just phoning each other. They're probably going to have a Barbie. They're moving into their summer right now. Can you believe it? It's getting cold over here. It dropped to -5. -5 up where my mum was last night. That is cold. That is dang cold.
That is cold.
Yeah, it's getting there, dude. It's getting there. But hey, it's Scotland, so it's to be expected. But rain, hail, shine, snow, whatever. I'll be here on Sunday with Bill Bean and Travis Short. And we'll have on Eddie Perez. And then, before you go away, let me just give you an idea what we have coming up next week on KBS. Let's see. Okay. So we've got Ben Emlyn Jones will be on a Monday. He's our Monday guest. Tuesday will be Nano Girl. And then Wednesday we've got a brand new guest on. Coming on to talk about transhumanism, Hollywood, AI, robots, future tech. And his name is Ken Ami. He's just been on the Charlie Robinson Microaggressions podcast. And Charlie thinks this is going to be a match made in heaven. So,
sounds like it'll be some excellent conversation. Those
and
are all
he
very
also
interesting
happens
topics.
to be a published author on the subject of Aleister Crowley.
Ooh.
And funnily enough, you can kind of tie in Crowley with the technological advancements that have been made over the ages, only because of people like Jack Parsons and all the other technologists who have walked the way of the Crowley, man. You know, there's been a few of them, so it does tie in. It's going to be a show of difference, Scott. It's going to be a show of difference. Yes, indeed. So I want to thank everyone for being here today. Disco, Scott will be on the open mic on Sunday. So don't forget that. And that'll be right before Warrior Mode. Awesome. So I think that's about it, Scotty boy. Any last word for our brilliant, amazing audience out there? A lot of people. We've kept it over 100 the whole way tonight. That's amazing, man.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and we shall do it again next week. Once again, it was a woo-filled episode of
Woo.
Intrigue. Yeah, woo-filled episode of Woo.
Billabongs, Bruces, Sheilas, and Bunyips. Dang, you don't need anything else for a show, Scotty. You really, really don't. But I can't play us out with that crap music I had on. It's alright listening to that song about 2 or 3 times, but any longer than that, Scott, and it starts to get, I don't know, man. I don't know. There we go. There's a better one, I think. Oh, come on. Oh, what the heck? Don't be doing that. There we go. Right, folks, I will be back on Sunday. Keep your eyes open tomorrow on the channel. We may do something tomorrow. Not quite decided yet. But thank you all for being here today. Thank you all for being here always. Wouldn't be a Freaky Friday without any of you people out there. And I hope you enjoyed our Australian special. Keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo.